community, learning, discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello, and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and welcome to episode 20, I believe. I'm not sure about that, but I know what we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm getting spammed. No! Turn it down for you. So, welcome to another episode of a little blog live video I do each and every week, talk about the paranormal topics that you guys vote on. If you have not watched a show, or if you are a regular viewer and you would like to see me talk about something specific that I have not already talked about on the show, you can kind of browse through the videos to see what I've done. You can submit your own idea for the show and we can vote on it as a community. So you can either comment on this video and we will see it. You can message me on my blog page. You can email me at justinbrown@interfacedeath.net, and we will get that submitted and put on the list of potential topics. We will bring the girls on over. We have Jessica Bias and Missy Vastine, as always, helping us tonight. How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm so tired. I got a headache. But otherwise, I'm ready to talk for an hour. How's Jess?
I am great.
Good. So did you have fun last weekend?
I did. Absolutely. The history of the bunkers. I mean, it was very interesting.
Don't see that every day.
No. We could have one in the backyard though. I think Josh should build one.
You need to do the whole prepper episode of your guys' bunker and all the food Josh would have in there just in case nuclear holocaust.
That would be a separate one. That would have to have two.
You'd have a whole underground system built.
Right.
The only thing I remember is the sticker bush.
He fell.
Oh, yeah, she did fall.
That's okay. But if you guys are not familiar with how this show works, we stream on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, it doesn't matter. We have people monitoring the comments. These girls are doing it. So if you have any questions, any opinions, any comments, that relate to the topic that we're talking about, we will get to them. They will read them off. They'll read the questions off to me. All that will be taken care of. We will shout you out if you would like to be shouted out. So don't be quiet in the comments. We will get back to these girls and we will shout out everybody on the show, make you feel like you are a part of it. All your comments are being seen on the video as we speak. So share this video if you want people to see it and, help this paranormal community that we're trying to establish. And we'll get the show on the road. So I'll get back to you girls, all right?
Sounds good.
Okay. This topic, I think, is a Paul Browning topic. I think this is the one that won the poll. So, controlling the environment, right? If we're trying to get legitimate evidence of the paranormal, we have to have some amount of control. The most control possible, right? You can't conduct audio recordings in a subway, on a busy street, in a house next to a busy street. There's a lot of things to to fight with, right? And to deal with. A lot of things to control. That's not just audio itself. You have to limit the amount of traffic and contamination as far as people is concerned in areas that you're trying to capture things. Light is another thing. I mean, there's so many things to consider, and we're going to talk about them all. And this is a topic that I could talk about in length, right? But we're going to talk about all the things I think that are the most important, and we'll try to hit them all. If I don't mention something, please, make a comment about it, and we'll address it. If you have run into any of these, issues on your paranormal investigations, please let me know, and we will try to get it in, into the conversation. But the first thing I want to talk about is what I realized early on in my paranormal research. What would happen is things would happen outside. I live in the country, and I in rural areas of Ohio, and I investigated a lot in my home state at first. And we have a lot of barking dogs. We have a lot of traffic. Even if you live out in the country, there is still loud cars that drive down the road. Their headlights, even if you're investigating at night, the headlights will come through, and there's bugs everywhere. There's animals everywhere. You're constantly dealing with the environment. So I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of noise contaminating, the stuff that I was trying to record, because what you want to do is you want it quiet as possible. And you cannot make insects shut up. You can close all the windows, close all the doors. Still, you're going to hear insects inside the house. Dogs can bark. The neighbor's dogs can bark. Cars go down the road. You can't stop this stuff, right? So what do? Well, there's not much you can do. Yes, you close the doors, close the windows, try to make recordings in places that don't have the outside exterior parts of the house next to your audio recorders, right? But what I have found, the best thing to do after dealing with this for a long, long time is to try to find places, and this is difficult, try to find places that are away from all that. There are places that you can get away. I found underground structures that are very, very, very quiet. But as time moves on, the amount of traffic that you hear, especially in your big city. I mean, looking back at a recent investigation, we were at Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and that is the noisiest, probably one of the noisiest places you can go. You're right next to Louisville. You might as well be right in the center of it. You hear airports, you hear coyotes, you hear dogs, you hear cars, you hear people, not even on the property. You hear insects. Everything is so loud there. And the audio control and the environmental control there is almost impossible. It pretty much is. There's no way you can control it. There's parts of it that still don't have windows. Wind can come in and blow on your microphones, blow against things, cause noises. The only thing you can do is account for it. Okay, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about first, is accounting for those things. So if you do initial sweep of the structure, you got to find out what things can cause noises, what things are making noise. You got to find out the best places that have the least amount of noise to try to do your audio recordings in. Okay, and the control of the noise your investigators are making is just as important. Okay, so limiting that amount of noise, walking around, talking, even breathing. Okay, the clothes that you can wear sometimes can be very, very loud. Just use common sense and be aware of just the natural noises that your investigators make, the natural noises that your surroundings make. So, other things like temperature, you want to control the temperature. You don't want the temperature to be, hugely variant, okay, inside and outside, okay? If you're investigating outside and you're getting huge variances in temperature, of course, all that type of data that you're trying to get isn't really usable. Okay, if you go into an area where it's a 20-degree difference into the next area you go to, that's not ideal. You don't want to have to deal with, really, really humid areas. You don't have to deal with, a lot of places that create shadow play. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is another place that has a lot of shadow play. A lot of windows where headlights can leak through and cause things to happen. There's so many things, right? There's so many things. What do? Well, the main reason why paranormal research investigate during the night is they're trying to limit the amount of the environmental contamination that happens. There's less people out driving. There's less people out making noise. The light is gone. The sun has set. That's the main reason why. Another main reason why, obviously, is people work during the day and they're off at night. And that's another reason. But trying to pick a time of day where you can limit the amount of environmental conditions is the best thing you can do off the get-go. So before we get into other things, I want you to let me know what you have run into, what you try to do to limit the amount of environmental lack of control that you have, and what you try to do to control it. Anything that pertains to that subject, just start jotting them down in the comments and we'll get to them. You guys have any comments? Do you want to start shouting people out?
Sure, I'll start. Lady Death is on Truth Paranormal. It says that there is more on, but nobody's commented. But Truth also said Waverly Hills is very loud, and depending on the time of year, Hales Bar Dam is very loud. The Monroe House was a pain because apparently everyone likes to keep their dogs outside at night.
Mm-hmm. It's right in town. It's right next to a road. Lots to deal with.
Sure. But that's it right now.
Okay, I see there's a lot more on Facebook, probably.
Yeah. I got Derek. I've got RJ, who was watching on his birthday.
Happy birthday, RJ. That's cool that we get to say happy birthday to you on the show.
I got Chief Land, Paranormal Investigator, Investigations and Research. I got Deirdre just showed up. I got Diana. I got Christy. She's, I assume, switching back and forth. So, Derek said to investigate naked and hold your breath.
And shut up, right?
Yeah.
Missy, what do you think is something that you run into often on investigations that cause lack of control on audio, on video? What's the first thing that pops into your head?
The bugs.
The bugs.
The crickets.
It's
dogs.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the best thing to do? Like, can you do anything? Is there anything to do?
I don't think you can do anything about that.
Ask Alex Bob about dogs. He lives next to these. He's got neighbors that have the loudest dogs ever, and he tries to live stream all the time. He live streams a lot, right? And these dogs are constantly barking. So he told me recently he's had to change the time in which he live streams so the dogs aren't so bad.
That's funny. How did the duck sound on your audio Saturday?
I haven't checked the audio. I did screen grabs. I went through and tried to grab some interesting looking screen grabs, and that's all I've done. I haven't listened to any of it.
I didn't know how much noise the duck made or any of that.
You probably can't hear it over the sound of insects out there. It's deafening. The insects are deafening.
Wow.
All right. Well, any comments or questions other than the stuff you already mentioned?
Nope.
All right. Well, I will get back to you, girls.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I think Missy's right. It doesn't matter where you are. I mean, yes, if you're around places that is not as grassy and wooded, the insects aren't as bad. But let's just face it. 99.9% of the places we go to investigate have a lot of trees, have a lot of grass, have a lot of bugs, a lot of bats, just things that make noise. So it makes it extremely difficult. Like, if anything like disembodied happens that sounds like a voice, you almost have to discredit it because of all these things. And it's really, really bad. So one thing that I will talk about is in our EVP research, we do this thing called cross-checking, and we use a RVPR. And if you're first time watching the show and you don't know what an RVPR is, we pretty much think that EVPs can be validated when you use multiple mic setups recording into one recording device, like a Tascam or a Zoom. So we have all these mics recording the same surroundings. So we're looking for audio to only come through one of the mics and none of the others. So if that happens, we can rule out acoustic recordings, acoustic energy. So if the bugs or the dogs barking or the people next to you are making noises, they will make noises in all the mics, right? So that's one thing you can do to kind of control what you get that's anomalous. So if you're not doing that, I would urge you to do it. It helps when you're dealing with all this stuff that we're talking about. Another thing that you could try doing is trying to find out what day of the week is the quietest. Not only what time of the day, but what time of the week. Sunday may be quieter than Monday or Friday or Saturday. You could possibly look into that. If it's like if you book someplace you've never been and you go and you can only do it on the Saturday, of course you're stuck. But if you're able to, definitely, if you have a choice, you definitely want to try to pick a day that is quieter. I see Scott has a good comment. Do you want to address that, Jessica?
Absolutely. What Scott said was we try to call out the noise investigating, so mark the stuff on the audio. It's like having Tourette's while investigating. You can give me give us a sign of your presence, dog, or anyone here with us, car. And also Mothman Historian is on too. Just came on.
What's up, man? I ask him his name, and he just gives me Mothman Historian. So no, I'm not allowed to know his real name, and I have to call him Mothman Historian every time I see him now.
It's a mystery.
But I kept on asking him, it's like, what's your name? And that's the only thing he'd give me, so that made me laugh. But it was awesome. We hung out with him again at Mothman Festival out the bunkers, and we seen him when we were at the festival, and we had a lot of fun. So I'm glad that he's watching tonight. But yeah. The Mothman Festival, I mean, you were there, Jess. I mean, the insects made it like there's no way you could.
No.
You can't do nothing about it.
No.
You go in the bunkers, it's a little bit better, but not much.
But the bunkers, there was so much of an echo. And like when you would step on something, you hear like crack, snap, crack. You know what I'm saying? It was the echo was, so much in there.
So
it'd be hard.
Okay, so keep that stuff coming, guys. I'll get back to you.
Sure.
It's a nightmare. So a lot of times you're just going to say, well, we may try to just cross-check with the other stuff to see if there's anything anomalous. But outside that, if you hear a disembodied scream, a voice, I mean, it's not going to hold up to any type of scrutiny whatsoever. So, I mean, you may be able to convince your friends or whatever, but when it comes to scrutiny and being peer reviewed by other people, like if you submitted me something and all I hear is crickets and people talking, that's bad. Now, one thing you can, let's talk about the things you can do. There's things that you can't do nothing about. The things you can do, like, for example, EVP sessions. Don't walk around any more than you have to. If you're in an area and you're doing an EVP session or you're recording audio to see if you can get anomalous or paranormal recordings, don't move. Stand still. Don't shift your clothing. Don't shift your feet. Anything under your feet can make a noise. The boards, the stuff on the floor, the dirt, the rocks. So those are the things you can control. I'm a loud breather. I'm a mouth breather. So I try to control that as well. But a lot of times it's hard because if you're walking around a lot, you're just going to breathe heavy. But you just got to, like Scott said, mark the size and the wheezes and all that stuff. Putting microphones very close to where you speak is very, very important, okay? Always having a recorder next to you, close to your body. I mean, if it's attached to your torso, right under your mouth, that's the best place. because you're going to hear this stuff coming out of your nose and mouth. You're going to hear the grumblings and growls of your stomach and your digestive system. You're going to hear your footsteps. So that's a good way to monitor the sounds that you're making. Another way to control what you're doing is going around, like, let's just say there's a lot of appliances and a lot of machines or equipment where you are. You can turn off the ones that you aren't using. Air conditioning, fans, all that type of stuff. Turn it off. Okay, so those are common sense things, but something you can overlook and something you may not consider. So you may want to work that into a protocol that you do when you go into a home or go into a location that you're investigating. Have a checklist for these things, because I tell you what, and this, no matter how good you think you are or how good your memory is, you can forget something, and you'll be doing a session, or you're being, in the middle of your investigation, all of a sudden an ice machine kicks on or something goes off and you're like, I forgot all about that. So those are things you can do. I want to hear what you guys do, what you guys encounter if you're just now joining us, and the things you do to try to control the things you can control. I want to know if there's something that you do that I haven't ever mentioned in before or in this video, because I need more ideas. I'm not going to pretend like I know everything. So I kind of, on these shows, I rely on people to say, hey, I've never heard about anybody doing this. What do you think about that? I don't know if people do this. Is something I do, because I really want to hear about that stuff. So if we get any comments about what I just asked, just cut in real quick, because I'm going to try to keep this going, girls. Environmental control extends past audio, obviously. So when you're dealing with light, let's say you're using infrared cameras, and controlling the amount of light, not only from your infrared illuminators, but from the outside, is key too, right? So if you have blinds, close them. So if a car goes by, there's a less chance of the cars causing, some type of reflection of light or some type of shadow to appear on your video, or something that you would see. Illuminators can cause problems. So we deal with that all the time. They can cause lens flares. They can cause washing out of certain images where you can't see anything. FLIR cameras, if you use thermal cameras, those are bad too. If you have any reflective surface, it's going to reflect back, and it can cause things. So what I'm trying to say is, you have to deal with what's naturally and normally occurring in your environment, but you are part of the environment as well. So what you do can contaminate your environment just as much as what the location does. So those things go hand in hand. I see Scott just chimed in with something there. But before we get to Scott's, Missy, is there anything over there on Facebook that we want to address?
Not really. Chief Flynn said he uses software equalizer plugins.
So he kind of filters out some stuff, is what he does.
Yeah.
Assuming. Okay.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Okay.
Scott said environmental factors will dictate what type of investigations you do or equipment you use. If you have a lot of outside noise, you already know EVP is going to be futile. I can never pronounce that word.
Futile is
okay.
Futile's right.
Okay. I thought I messed it up because I could never say that word.
Yes, in a way it does. Like I was saying, a lot of things that you're trying to record, like disembodied voices or anything acoustic, there's no way to know. And like I said, when people try to scrutinize it, that's what they're going to say. Well, it's just something causing that to happen. But what we do is we use things like the RVPR or we rely on multiple audio sources to cross-check. So if we have a camera here with an audio recorder and a voice recorder here, and we catch a voice right here and not right here, that's physically impossible unless the two devices' frequency response and area in which it picks up is so vastly different. But that's not the case with our stuff. So that's about the only thing you can do. Scott, you found a word I have a hard time pronouncing.
You weren't supposed to read that.
Oh, well, it's on the screen.
But look who wrote it.
I didn't. I just, as soon as I start reading, I was like, oh, wait, that's her comment.
There's about 10 words. I'll tell everybody right now. There's about 10 words that I have a hard time pronouncing, and please don't try to figure them out, because there's probably more than 10.
We'll figure them out eventually while you're on the show. Someone will type it out, and you'll be like, oh, that's number 7.
They'll start counting them.
Yeah. Chieflin talks about playing stuff backwards can cause pareidolia. Sometimes when you play stuff backwards, it sounds exactly like a word, and that's not really pareidolia. It's just, it sounds exactly like a word. But some things are pareidolia when you hear them backwards. That's why I don't understand when people put the reverse pedals on their ghost boxes. They're like, okay, well, if we reverse anything and if it comes across normal, then that shouldn't happen. Well, it happens all the time. So that's confusing to me. So another thing that we can do to control our environment is limit the amount of investigators you have in a location when there's not a huge location. Okay? Even when, Interface Death is just as guilty as this. We're outside trying to let members of our group, smaller group, go in, but we're outside talking, and I'm guilty of laughing loudly. I think Diana has the loudest laugh out of all of us, but I'm pretty loud, and sometimes I don't realize how loud I get. So we have to kind of like just sit there and just whisper to each other, because if we don't, they're going to hear us inside. I mean, when we were at Thornhaven, they came out and they said, Justin, we heard you. I'm like, I know, I suck. I can't be quiet. So one thing you can do is go in, limit the amount of people that are inside. Okay, sometimes you can abandon the place completely and just monitor it for an hour without having anybody in there. So you can get it really quiet, right? But maybe, breaking it down in groups, trying to work with smaller numbers when you have smaller locations is another way to control the environment. We're talking about our own selves this time. But there's not a whole lot you can do other than the things that we discussed. I'm not seeing anybody else throwing a whole lot of stuff out there. I know Scott has and a couple other people, but I'm trying to see what people, if they have something I've never heard or considered about how to control the environment. I know Paul Browning hasn't popped on yet. I'm kind of waiting for him to.
He's just popped on.
All right. I seen the hi, Paul. Paul, we're talking about environmental control. So I'm waiting to hear your insight on what you do. I know he has a lot of things that he does to try to alert him if there's any type of contamination with his investigators going on. Before he comments, what he does is I found that setting up recorders on all sides of the building that you're investigating and cross-checking those recorders with what you get inside is very important. Cross-checking is like this hugest part of what we do, and it should be a huge part of what everybody does. So if you get a voice and you cross-check it with the recorder on the side of the house that you heard it from and all the others, just to be safe, you can know if it came from outside. If it's loud on the recorder, louder on the recorder on the outside than it was on the inside, boom, you have just debunked something that you thought was anomalous. So that's not so much controlling the environment, but you're just accounting for the environment in ways that, you may not have done previously, right? You can do sweeps with meters. Okay, that's one thing. If you are using EMF meters, do a sweep outside, do a sweep inside, try to establish a baseline. You can do that with audio as well, but we're going to talk about controlling the magnetic fields, or accounting for the magnetic fields. Putting away your cell phones, putting away and turning off devices, that can contaminate your investigation and trip your, set off your equipment. So those are things you can consider. Naturally occurring magnetic fields could be something you're dealing with. The magnetic fields, geomagnetic fields in the earth can mess with stuff. Okay, so not a lot of people have equipment to measure magnetic fields or geomagnetic fields, but that could be a thing. So that's something you want to do. Go ahead, Missy, and I see Paul's commenting now.
He said, I set up motion sensors at every access point leading outside of the location.
He works in very small groups, which we talked about. And he cross-checks audios using methods in his book, which I do. And we've talked about. So...
And just so Jess knows, Josh is over here telling people the words that she cannot pronounce.
No.
YouTubers out there.
She threw you under the bus.
Did he? I'll get him back.
He threw you right under the bus, and it ran.
But the thing is, he doesn't know all of them, so that's the secret. I have to figure something out.
You say the word acorn just fine.
I do. I know that one pretty well.
And Ralphie.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you do good, so just focus on the positive.
Right. Damn you, Josh.
He loves you or he wouldn't be doing it.
Mothman just read his comment there. Talk about that.
Okay, Mothman said, good tips. The best thing to do for EVP is to find an isolated, quiet place, set the recorder down, and ask questions clearly, giving long pauses with no extra mumbling or whispering. Also, try to be on camera.
Very, very good idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know how many times I hear people's audio recordings and they're like, I don't have no video of what's going on. So if we hear a noise, all we have is the recording, the audio recording. So that's always perplexed me, like why people do EVP sessions and audio recordings without video. It's so bad. I mean, yeah, I get it if you don't have a video camera, but if you have one, you should be using it, like he said. Yeah, Paul likes to use the motion sensors. If he hears footsteps in this area and he doesn't have any motion detector hits and he doesn't have any video of anybody that's with him. Hi, Bray Bray. Hi, say hi to everybody.
Hi, Braylon.
But,
hi, Missy.
Hi, buddy.
All right, go play. I'll tickle you. But he will cross-check all that data, and he'll make sure that it's not one of his investigators or somebody coming in, breaking into the place, and doing stuff like that. So he has built his own equipment to do that. And if you want to learn about all the stuff that he does, go follow him on Facebook. Anything else in the comments popping up there on Facebook?
No, I ain't got anything.
Well, you're supposed to. Anybody new popping on besides Paul?
No. Paul just said passive, infrared, and Doppler based.
That's the sensors you use, the motion sensors.
Yeah. And face cams.
You like face cams.
I hate face cams.
But they make for cool reaction shots.
I guess so.
Braylon will take over the show if I let him. I had a time to go. He was half naked when he came in. He'd probably get completely naked, and then I would get like permabanned on YouTube or something.
You just have to log off Facebook.
That would be the end of my life. But yeah, I think that using common sense and trying to actually use your past experiences and your investigations to make you get better, okay? And when other people kind of jump onto your post and say, well, everybody's talking so much, you should be quiet. You shouldn't take offense to that, because you may not realize that, you know, you're talking so much, so the evidence that you're submitting for peer review isn't going to be very credible to people. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Mothman commented, small groups who are familiar with investigating or simply going solo, it's good to cut down on noise contamination. For EMF, try to remove all the electronics you can. Sweep the area first so you are aware.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Truth said that they use he uses face cams from time to time.
Face cams are good, and we can emphasize the face cams because I do in my group. You know, I've recently made Missy, you know, we use the face cams because she says a lot of things under her breath, and it's not like she can help it. It's not like she's doing it on purpose. So instead of yelling at her every time she does it or making her feel like, you know, she can't breathe, just stick a camera on her rig that's pointed at her so we can just check it and it's fine. And it's also really cool to edit in that face camera footage for reactions and just, you know, an alternate thing to cut to. But the face cam is so important. I wish way more people used it. It can definitely be one of your best cross-checking pieces of data that you can use during your investigation. Because I don't know how many times I've heard people, you know, they're shooting video and they capture something that they think is paranormal, but it's not pointing at anybody that's there. So instead of having to try to point the camera at everybody that's there or try to get it at an angle where everybody's in camera, get the POV cam and rig it to where it's pointed at you. If you're not using a camera rig to record video with, I would highly suggest you do that. If you're using a tripod and you're just standing behind the tripod, stick a camera facing you in the direction you're standing and opposite of where you're shooting. If you're just holding the camera, if it has a hot shoe adapter on the top of it, stick a camera pointing back or something to where you're recording what you're doing, what you're saying while you're filming. It's so important, guys. I say that stuff all the time. See you, Paul. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Make chili after. You should be dead. Your intestines should be rotted away with all the chili he eats. And he's skinny, too. Makes me angry. He can eat all the chili once. So, does anybody else think that I have not addressed something so far? Have I touched all the bases when it comes to environmental control? Trying to think. My brain's a little bit laggy. I'm really tired. But I think I've covered the important parts. I'm trying to think of instances where I've had issues with environmental control. I can't think of any right now. Josh says it's also good to use a dim infrared light to illuminate your face well enough to see your reactions. Yep. It's hard to light your face if you got even just a cheap light because it's so close. So get with Deadlight LLC for your infrared and full spectrum applications. They will help you out with that. I had him make me a custom face light that works really, really well. There's several things you can do. Jess?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. He said maybe one day we can build a house inside a giant cage and try to make it haunted by bringing in haunted items. We could also make haunted house under laboratory settings. LOL.
You skipped a word.
Hypothetically. Boom. Nice try. I was reading too fast. I know I did after I skipped it.
All right.
Sorry.
Build a house inside a Faraday cage. Have you ever seen those houses? Like on Facebook, they build them completely upside down, and they're just for it's art, but it's an upside down house. Have you ever seen that, Jess?
No, I haven't.
I think if they can do that, they can build a house inside a Faraday cage, but I don't see anybody doing that. If you have the means to build a huge Faraday cage and to bring in stuff like he suggested, like haunted items and stuff, that would be interesting. You would definitely want to do all kinds of experiments and research in those locations. Using Faraday cages is hard because to truly have a Faraday cage, it's got to be built to a spec and it's got to be grounded. And I found that all the times I've tried to use Faraday shielding, it's not as good as you would like it to be because of that reason. Yeah, Scott mentioned the street fair at the Blackford. Yeah, that was bad, but it kind of worked out for us. Brandy Reader took care of us for that.
Mothman also said it's hard to control the settings when you're looking for a
specifically.
Did Josh do that word? A haunted area, and you're a guest in that location. Why do I feel like I'm getting picked on today?
I don't know. I'm not picking on you. It's not my fault.
To be clear, he only told us one word.
Oh, well, that's number 3.
So everybody else is just guessing, I guess.
Yeah, it is hard to control. I've been saying this the whole time. It's the main problem, right, guys? It's the main problem with paranormal investigation right now. You cannot control everything to the amount or, enough where it can be completely contamination free. Okay? So that is the problem we face. And it's one of the things that we need to try to solve. Now, Mothman is kind of gave some type of weird scenario to help that situation, but it's not practical. So we can't stick things in Faraday cages. We can't, rip out the haunted house and put it in, a limbo in a little, subspace bubble to where nothing happens outside. We can't do that. So it's a huge problem. And we just have to, I think the message I want you guys to have from this show is you have to come to terms and accept your limitations. Okay, we want to go out there. We want the EVPs. We want the video of all the paranormal stuff happening. But I think as long as we accept that the place is freaking noisy, you just can't do the research perfectly. You can't rely on a lot of the audio data that you have. It won't hold up to the scrutiny you want it to hold up. And as long as that we're okay and understand this, I think we can try to find ways to investigate that location that doesn't involve the things that we cannot control. So that might be a really, something really helpful to tell you guys. Try to find something to do in your paranormal research that is not impacted by contamination, the environment, stuff like that. Go into if someone calls you and wants you to come to the residence and they say they hear this, they hear that, 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100, it's probably not paranormal. One thing I have been thinking about lately is that I've been guilty of this. You'll go into a home, they'll say that they hear this, but you don't try to capture what they hear. You just break out a recorder and try to get an EVP. And that's probably one of the worst things you could do. They're not experiencing EVP. They're experiencing acoustic sounds. So the first thing you want to do is try to debunk those things. And if you can't debunk them, but you don't experience them or record them, you got to keep coming back until you do. If you can't or don't, then it's unexplained and you can't help them out with that. But there's one thing, it's kind of like off topic a little bit, but if you ever been guilty of that, you go into an investigation and you break out all this equipment and try to get phenomena that isn't even reported at the location. I've been thinking about this lately. So I'm going to try to do better at that. But when we go to locations that we really don't know what the claims are completely and what's possible for them to do, I know that there's a lot of locations we go to that people do ITC research and EVP, research all the time, every day for years. So that's a little bit more understandable. Christopher Maggard tried to call me on Messenger. Must have been a mistake. But go ahead and Jess, did you have anything there on? Was Mothman say anything, or is that an old?
Yes. Okay. No. People who own supposedly haunted locations can probably do more to control the area and perform testing. But with us as visitors, we can only do what we can.
That's a good point. Thornhaven is case in point. When we went there, their Wi-Fi was so invasive to our stuff. Like, we had problems connecting to our drones and flying our drones. We had problems. They even had reported claims of REM pods and other stuff being affected by the Wi-Fi. And I think that he should definitely do something about that. He needs to remedy that. And there's other things too. Lack of insulation, not fixing a roof, drippy faucets, all that stuff. Definitely. I see some stuff on Facebook, Missy. Anything to address?
Chief Lynn Paranormal said if people stayed up all night, they would hear all kinds of noises that are normal house noises.
Absolutely. The temperature cooling off during the day can make your house pop and crack and shift all the time. Missy, does your house get noisy in the evening and going into the night?
Yeah. Because I got these old floors that are original to the house, and they crack and pop. And you were talking about controlling the environment. Blackford County, the jail, and that Jacob's Ladder comes to mind when you say that.
Yeah, he tries to use it to stimulate or induce paranormal phenomena, but we wondered if it would linger after you shut it off. I don't, like, you could stick a meter in there and see that there's no fields lingering there, but does it have a lingering effect to the mind and the body is the question. So those are things that you can experiment with on an individual basis. That would be something that I would be interested in experimenting with. Do we have time and the energy? Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not.
But yeah, that's part of that location, and something he routinely does that could, affect our environmental control.
Yeah, but I ain't got anything. I don't have anything else.
Sean Gilmore says his front door flew open just now.
Yeah,
it flew open.
I think so.
Yeah, just like Scott said, broken windows, leaky pipes, poor insulation. You know, the building's gone to crap. It's problems. We're dealing with problems. So just keep all that in mind. Try to be super duper careful with the stuff that you're causing. Your investigators making noise. We're outside laughing, carrying on, and we need to be more considerate of our investigation. And it's hard because we're trying to enjoy ourselves. You know, we're trying not to be bored, you know. But the more serious you get, the better we have to perform. And that is my message for today. If you have any more questions, now's the time to put them in the comments. If you have any other opinions, experiences with controlling the environment or lack thereof, let me know real quick. We will start breaking down the show. We can talk about our website. We urge you to visit www.interfacedeath.net.com. Both of them work. Check out the paranormal research that I do with my group. We constantly try to get better. We constantly try to educate. We constantly try to learn. Our methods constantly try to evolve. So you can go back on our YouTube channel and see that evolution and see that progression. Okay. Next year, we'll have even more stuff that we're trying to do and trying to get even better. Okay. Because we're constantly doing that. So check that out. Check out Deadlight LLC on Facebook. If you need the best infrared illuminator out right now, that's it, guys. I'm not biased. I make sure that Josh is doing all the things that he needs to do to stay ahead of all the competition. Okay. So check that out. Check out the Blackford County Jail documentary. Okay. I haven't been plugging that as much as I should, but that is from what I've heard and the feedback I've got from people who's watched it, it is a very good documentary, a very, very cool location. We're going back to the old Blackford County Jail for the world's largest ghost hunt, September 29th. So please, tickets are still available for that. So if you're in the Indiana, Ohio, even Michigan area, Kentucky, go check out our event on our Facebook page and get tickets. If you cannot find where to get tickets, just message me, comment. I will help you out with that. It's going to be a really, really interesting night. They have us linking up with psychics and other paranormal researchers across the world with live connections to see if this huge world joint effort can yield or stimulate more paranormal phenomena at these locations. And I think if done correctly, there could be results from that. So that's interesting. If you're in the Chillicothe, Ohio area this weekend, we're going to be a special guest at a ghost walk there from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. So check that out as well. Anything else, girls, before I go into the end here?
I thought Truth just said Deadlight is the best.
It's worth
Sean
repeating.
Gilmore just said it too. He said it's definitely the #1 illuminator on the market.
Who said that? Sean Gilmore? Oh, of course,
Sean
of course he did. He says that like every other word, I think. He's like, Deadlight, Deadlight. All right. Thanks, guys, for supporting Deadlight and supporting the show, coming in, stopping by, saying hi. It means a lot to us. Girls, I'm going to wrap this up. You can hang out in the call if you want. If you guys support what we do by watching, by sharing, by liking, contributing to the paranormal community, and want to do more, you can do more. Okay. Let me find the button. Yay! There's the button. Well, you can do so through Patreon. This list started off with just a few. Now it's many, and it can be much, much more. The more names on this list, the more we can do, and that's just how the world works. I wish that we had just had all the money and resources to do everything that we wanted to do, but I'm telling you what, we're still waiting on funds to do cutting edge paranormal research. The Cloud Chamber project still is not up and running yet because we just hit a roadblock. The engineering issues that we have just cost too much money for us to continue. So projects like that, live streams, video productions, everything that we do, it just adds up so bad. Even the website's expensive. These live streams cost money. So if you want to support what we do, you can do so. $1 a month would help a lot. Okay? All these names: Christy, Clay, Matthew, Matt, Danette, Landon, Gwendolyn, Jessica, RJ, Liz, Bill, and Scotty. They have ensured that this content stays and our research moves forward instead of stays where it's at or just goes away completely. You are shout out in live streams. You end up in the credits of our video productions, and depending on what you pledge a month, there's even more rewards. So go to patreon.com/supportinterfacedeath and check that out if you're interested. We would appreciate it. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate all your support. Tomorrow night, we're talking with Joe Vitale, which is Truth Paranormal on YouTube. We're going to be talking with him about the paranormal, obviously. So tune in 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night on Necromancer, on the Necromancer Live Show Facebook page and the Interface Death YouTube channel. Check us out at interfacedeath.net. Subscribe to the mailing list so you can keep updated with all the stuff we do. Okay, guys? I'm going to leave it there. You guys have a good evening. If you are first time viewing this show, you can stick around for some of the video promotions at the end. And as always, I will see you next time.
What was that?
I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses, wait to see if you hear things, observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated, we typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we can hear it again.